In this video, we're going to talk about a slope refresher before we get into our writing equations section. So to get started, let's talk about how to find slope from a graph. So the very first thing that I want to remind you of is that when I'm finding slope, I need 2 points. And when I'm choosing my 2 points, I always go left to right. So this is point 1. And this is point 2. Now, you can find slope either way, but I find that if we go left to right, it gives us the most simplest slope most often the first time. So if I am counting my rise over my run, remember slope is always a fraction. So I'm always going to make a fraction, and on top it's always how much I either go up or down versus right or left. So what I'm going to do is make my fraction bar, go to my point 1, and I want to count to point 2. Now to get up to point 2, I have to count up. So I'm going to count spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces up. So I'm going to write 8 on top, and because it's up, it's a positive 8. Now I'm going to go from where I left off and count over to my second point. So counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces. So because my slope is 8 over 8, so that's my slope fraction, but remember I always want to simplify it. So I would either make it into 1 over 1 or just a whole number of 1. All right, let's look at a second example just to make sure we got the hang of that. So remember, going along left to right, here's point 1, here's point 2. Counting spaces, up or down, well, to get to point 2, I want to count down. 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So on my fraction, I'm going to have -4 because I'm counting down. And then I'm going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, and that is to the right. So that is a positive direction. I'm going to check if I can simplify, and I can't, so this would be my answer. Alright, now let's look at this example here with my 2 ordered pairs. So I have the ordered pair 2, 9, and the ordered pair 8, -4. Now remember, the formula that you want to have written down somewhere handy when you're finding slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This is one you're going to want to have memorized or written on a reference page that you can keep pulling back to. So remember, x and y are my ordered pairs in a point, x and y. And then this is my first point, so it gets little 1s. This is my second point, so it gets little 2s. And then from here, what I'm going to do is simplify. I'm going to use my formula and simplify. So I'm going to make my formula fraction bar, and then on the top of the fraction it says y2 minus y1. So y2 is -4, so -4. I'm going to make my negative minus sign for my equation, and then minus y1. So y1 matches with the 9. Then I'm going to fill in the bottom, x2, which matches to 8, minus 2. And I would just type this into my calculator. -4 minus 9 is -13, and 8 minus 2 is 6, and I check to see if I can simplify it, and I cannot, so that would be my final answer. Okay, so that's from a point, and last but not least, I want to talk about from a table. So this is exactly the same, my y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember, my table is a bunch of points. These are all x's because they're all in the x column. These are all y's because they're in the y column. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to label x, x, y, y, and this is my first point, this is my second point. This is my first point, this is my second point. Now, one reminder that I want to give to you is if the numbers are nasty, like negative or decimals, you can cross out rows. So I can cross out these bottom 2 rows, or if I had a table that was like 2 5/3, 3 7, 9 2/3, and 10 5, I would cross out. So sorry, you can't see my example, but I would cross out the 2 that had to do with fractions and only use the ones with whole numbers. That is allowed. So what am I going to do? I'm going to write down my fraction bar. I'm going to fill in my formula. So y2 matches with 13 minus y1, x2 is 3 minus x1, and I simplify. 13 minus 1 is 12. 3 minus 1 is 2. Can I simplify 12 over 2? I sure can. That simplifies to 6 over 1 or just 6. And either of these answers would be most simplified. And that's our slope refresher for today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thanks.